Welcome to Engage,
where we are inspired by Jesus impacting our city and the world.
Living this way is an art form that is best when practiced together. We do this together by resisting apathy,
Welcoming everyone and making sure no one is left out.
participating in remedying the concerns of those around us and around the world.
Telling our stories, and just by actually being, eating, and doing life together.
We believe that every day is another chance to live by faith
Labor in love.
and endure with hope. Join us, create with us.
as we follow the brushstrokes of the Creator. Welcome to Engage.
Hey everybody, Stephen Bowler here, and welcome. And I'm excited to be here with you, preaching in our Top Secret series. And before I get into what we're talking about today, we're in Esther, Top Secret. I wanted to remind us of our main ideas that we've been with before. God gives us a mission. So we see Esther was given a mission. So are we. For such a time as this. Nothing will turn me away from God, and I can stand up for God and others. And today, before I jump in, I would like to mention our main idea is I can follow God even when nobody's watching. I can follow God even when nobody's watching. Let me jump into our two accounts with Esther. And our main focus today is her cousin and adopted father figure, Mordecai, and how he follows God, even in the midst of troubling times, even when nobody's watching. This is Esther 2:21 through 23. During the time Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate, Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's officers who guarded the doorway, became angry and conspired to assassinate King Xerxes. But Mordecai found out about the plot and told Queen Esther, who in turn reported it to the king, giving credit to Mordecai. And when the report was investigated and found to be true, the two officials were impaled on poles. All this was recorded in the book of the Annals in the presence of the king. And we're going to jump to Esther 6, 1 through 11. So a few chapters, Esther 6, 1 through 11. That night, the king could not sleep, so he ordered the book of the Chronicles, the record of his reign, to be brought in and read to him. It was found recorded there that Mordecai had exposed Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's officers who guarded the doorway, who had conspired to assassinate King Xerxes. What honor and recognition has Mordecai received for this? The king asked. Nothing has been done for him, his attendants answered. The king said, Who is in the court? Now Haman had just entered the outer court of the palace to speak to the king about impaling Mordecai on the pole he had set up for him. His attendants answered, Haman is standing in the court. Bring him in, the king ordered. When Haman entered, the king asked him, What should be done for the man the king delights to honor? Now Haman thought to himself, Who is there that the king would rather honor than me? So he answered the king, For the man the king delights to honor, have them bring a royal robe to the king has worn, and a horse the king has ridden, one with royal crest placed on its head. Then let the robe and the horse be entrusted to the one of the king's noble princes. Let them robe the man the king delights to honor, and lead him on the horse through the city streets, proclaiming before him, This is what is done for the man the king delights to honor. Go at once, the king commanded Haman. Get the robe and the horse, and do just as you have suggested for Mordecai the Jew, who sits at the king's gate. Do not neglect anything you have recommended. So Haman got the robe and the horse. He robed Mordecai and led him on horseback through the city streets, proclaiming before him, This is what is done for the man the king delights to honor. Let's pray. Jesus, thank you so much for the account, the story of Esther and Mordecai in a very difficult time for the Israelites, for them. In the same way, let us take away for our most difficult times, for our life today, that you have asked us to follow you, even when no one's looking, even in the midst of being exiles and travelers away from home. Help us, guide us, let your Spirit teach us now as we take your word and see what you have for us. Amen. So far in our story, we know that Esther's queen. She has she's in Persia with Mordecai, and not at home, not in Israel, and immediately that should give us a pause to recognize the tension of the story. They are not home, and Esther even further has really been taken from her home. She's been taken from Mordecai and whatever other family she was living with. Fortunately, she's been promoted to this powerful position as queen, has a voice with the king and the court. But still, we need to recognize the tension of this moment, that she's not home in Israel. Mordecai's not home, and she's not home even in Persia with her family. She's now the queen, and we don't know what that was like for her, but we know it's a new home. So really, our main idea being that I can follow God even when nobody's watching. That's true. We're not gonna run away from that. But I do kind of want to tweak this idea for us. And I want to kind of change it from I can follow God even when nobody's watching to I can follow God wisely in exile. And that's what they are, and that's what we are. That's what Esther has been brought into. She's in exile, like I said, and whether you like it or not, whether you feel at home sometimes, we are not home. We are exiles, and that's the way we should read Esther. Is they are not home, and the history of that is Israel was taken from. The Israelites were taken from home by Babylon, and eventually Babylon was conquered by Persia. And now, in our story with Esther, we have them still in Persia. We don't know. We know that some exiles have gone back. We don't know why Esther and Mordecai are still in Persia. Maybe they chose to. Maybe it wasn't time for them to go back. Something wasn't right for them or ready for them to go back. But they're still not home. And for us, we're not home either. So that's just the big scheme of the main idea that I want to give you and myself today is we're exiles. And I can follow God whether somebody's looking or not. I'm an exile. I'm a heavenly citizen living on earth. And going back into our story with Esther and the exiles in Persia and throughout the land, I love this theme of exile. It's one of my favorites, even though it's a sad one. But during this tradition of exile for the Israelites, there was sometimes two ways that the Israelites thought of how to be exiles. And there was two ways: comply or rebel. And you can see this tension a lot in Daniel, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, a lot of these books that are centered around exile. We're going to talk a little bit about Daniel today. Complying would mean I become Babylonian. I take on the mantle of Babylon, and that is now my identity. I am now no longer an Israelite. I'm a Babylonian or Persian. But then there's the other side, the rebel, who would say, I will do nothing like the culture that I'm in. In fact, I will attack it. I will go after anything that is not what I think is for me and my people. But I think the Bible, in Esther, Daniel, all these, give us a third image. And I would like to call it, this isn't my phrase, this is more like from like the Tim Mackey and the Bible Project. Believe he coined this, is subversive submission. And it takes those two concepts, comply, rebel, and kind of wisely smashes them together. And we can see this example, especially in the book of Daniel, who's in the midst of Babylonian exile. They submit. They wisely submit. They take on Babylonian names. They take on Babylonian jobs. But they don't always do that. They subvert wisely. The first story with Daniel, and they're given food, and they say, no, this is not kosher. This is not what is for us as Israelites. And God rewards them by making them stronger. And same thing with Daniel's friends. And they don't bow to the idol made by Nebuchadnezzar. They stand strong. And they're punished, but they're rewarded or at least protected by God. They subvert and submit. They didn't try to, say, no, we will not follow, we'll not follow. We will not follow, but we'll submit to the consequences. We'll go to the furnace. And in that story, they say, you can throw us in, but we serve God. They submitted to that idea. And coming back to our story today, Mordecai, in the first part, in chapter 2, could have easily gone to the extremes. The easy extreme that he could have gone to, which would not have been, in this instance, I think, following God, he could have rebelled. He could have said, oh, we got these two rebels in the court. We're wanting to plot to assassinate King Xerxes. Let me either turn the other way and say nothing, or let me be a part of it. Maybe I can help. Maybe I can take out the king of my oppressors, the king of the ones who are oppressing my people. Ooh, what if I really want to get back at them? But instead, amazingly, is he blesses the king. He tells Esther about this plot, not wanting any reward. It doesn't really say, but he blessed the king. He blessed Persia. And what was his reward? Is the conquering of evil. Haman, who in our story is just really this evil man in the court, thinks that him and his pride will be the one elevated. But because Mordecai has done this thing with no expectation of being rewarded, and as a second-hand citizen, Israelites were not looked at properly. He blessed, and then his reward was the flipping of the roles and conquering evil, who's personified by Haman. And Haman is humiliated. You could just kind of imagine him thinking that this was going to be his reward, but is humiliated by having to reward the one that he hates and wants to take out, which is Mordecai. And so, as we think of, I can follow God as a wise exile, or even just as nobody's watching, I can follow God during these kind of moments. I want to use another exile passage as an example. Is Jeremiah 29. And usually with Jeremiah 29, we think of verse 11, which is a great verse. But I love to bring up what God tells Jeremiah to tell the Israelites is about to happen. They're about to be put into exile. He's talking about the Israelites like Esther and Mordecai. And he says this in Jeremiah 29, verses 4 through 7. This is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says to all those I carried into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. Build houses and settle down. Plant gardens and eat what they produce. Marry and have sons and daughters. Find wives for your sons and give your daughters in marriage, so that they too may have sons and daughters. Increase in number there. Do not decrease. Also, this is surprising, this phrase, also seek the peace and prosperity of the city to which I've carried you into exile. Pray to the Lord for it, because if it prospers, you too will prosper. Mordecai chooses this ethic. He chooses to bless. And really, this is the way of Jesus, who himself was the great exile. He chose to humble and to come in flesh as a baby and then turn everything upside down. This is his ethic. Jesus says to love your enemies. Mordecai blesses his enemies. And if this is difficult, Jeremiah tells us, how do we follow? How do we do this? How do we follow God with this? And he gives us really concise list. Build homes, settle down, plant gardens and eat, marry, have kids, seek the peace and prosperity of the city. And this is where our story and Esther and Mordecai's story, all of the exiles of the Old Testament, our stories come together. Again, whether you think of it or not, I think you should. You are an exile. You are a citizen of heaven. You are like Esther and Mordecai. You're not home. And you might feel that in a myriad of ways. You might feel really not home. You might have been displaced. You might have needed to move away because of circumstances. Maybe you feel that in your own health, that this isn't right. My body is not the way it should. There are a lot of ways that we live in exile, small and big. But your story and my story, Esther's story and Mordecai's, are all the same. That we are exiles. We're not home. So, what are we commanded to do? What does it look like to follow God in the midst of exile, whether people are looking or not? And it is that we must bless others. We must settle down, build a home, bless your community, bless your neighborhood. And that might not look like what happens to Mordecai. Your reward might not come, but as exiles in the tradition of Jesus, our reward is with Christ. Our reward is the heavenly city that we really are at home with, and it will come. And we have to root ourselves in that. And we take on the mantle of blessing. Not these extremes of full submission, where we become like the culture around us. Not also full rebellion, where we attack everything around us. But maybe sometimes wisely as we seek God, a little bit of both. Maybe that looks like you taking on, blessing your job, working the regular 9 to 5. Most of us are doing that. That's a wonderful thing. You're in the community. You're in the culture. You're not going to just go against that. But also maybe it looks like subversion, where you leave home to go to the mission field, even though your family says it's too dangerous. Why would you leave America, United States, and go somewhere where it's more dangerous to be a Christian. Maybe that's telling your friend the truth about something in their life with kindness, with care, of course, with love. But this all depends on where your joy and where you're choosing to find your hope is in. Is it earth, stuff, things? Or is it our heavenly city? And so, as we wait for that city, as exiles, as we are seeing as the darkness and night of the waning of this world, and we look for the sunrise where Jesus will come and his city, let us have hope as exiles to follow God with wisdom and with blessing. And I want to finish, hopefully this encourages you to finish, with 1 Peter, the New Testament. Peter is writing to New Testament exiles. He'll mention that here. He mentions that here in the book. He says, "Therefore, with minds that are alert and fully sober, set your hope on the grace to be brought to you when Jesus Christ is revealed at his coming. As obedient children, do not conform to the evil desires you had when you lived in ignorance. But just as he who called you is holy, so be holy in all you do. For it is written, 'Be holy, because I am holy.' So build houses, plant gardens, and go be faithful exiles of Jesus."